It's truly an honor to be here. It's the first time I've been able to make the Suli Forum, and I thank Barham Saleh and all the distinguished Iraqi leaders, present and past, who are here today. But probably more important, I also thank all the academicians that are here, all the other experts, think tankers that are here with us today, the students as well, and more importantly, the followers of Iraq. I mean, I have a love for this country, and I'll tell you, I've been intimately involved in this nation since 2003. So it was incredibly interesting to hear the Prime Minister's vision of the future. I do see familiar faces in the room, and there are many new faces as well, and there are some folks that I haven't had a chance to meet, and I look forward to speaking with you in the next 2 days. It is an honor to be with you because the folks in this room, I think, represent the future of this country, and you're going to be the ones that will determine Iraq's trajectory and certainly the country's role, both in the region and globally, as you've heard different speakers discuss and were highlighted just moments ago in the panel. Today I was asked to discuss the United States' relationship with Iraq, both our approach and our commitment and a vision to the future. And I'll do this with a few opening remarks and then answer some questions based on the Q&A session that will follow. I'm joined by a couple of folks I'd like to give a shout out to today. My NSC Senior Director, or my NSC Director, Emily Barnes, works Iraq and Syria. She is here with us. And so if I don't do a good job in the Q&A session, I'll point her out, and you can grab her at lunch or at other opportunities and ask her hard questions. Secondly, the American contingent is also here, and it includes Charge d'Affaires David Berger and also the Deputy Counselor General Zahra Bell, who's as much of an Iraq expert certainly as I am. I thought I'd talk a little bit about our commitment. And I've been, since 2014 and even times before then, you know, every time I get up to a podium to answer questions about America's commitment, regardless of what my role is in government, I make clear that we remain committed to the region. I say that again, I make clear that the United States remains committed to the region, that our interests with the region are too interwoven for any other answer than just that. Yet I have to continually repeat that statement time and time again, that the United States is committed to Iraq and to the region. So I appreciate that nothing I can say up here probably may fully alleviate your chronic concern about America's commitment. I'll state up front that we are committed. So with that general comment out of the way, let me lay what I described to you as the shape of our commitment when it comes to Iraq and the region. The relationship with Iraq is strong and it's strategic. I'll say again, it's strong and it's strategic, and it's focused on the future. One of the themes running through today's event is how far Iraq has come since 2003, and that rings true for our partnership as well. We've come a long way. Since 2003, our relationship has evolved through many stages, and frankly, I have personally been associated with a number of those, whether it was the 2006 and 7 time frame when I was helping build the Iraqi Army and Navy, or whether it was when I was back in 2010 working with Iraqi security forces as they dealt with al-Qaeda in Iraq in both Baghdad province and Al-Anbar provinces, as I worked to support your commanders. Or later during the Defeat ISIS period, when I was here trying to assist as Iraqi security forces and the Peshmerga forces were getting ready to liberate Mosul, Nineveh province, and then Al-Anbar. So I'll say right up front, I was inspired by the behavior and the performance of the brave Iraqi security forces and the Peshmerga that did incredible things to create the security conditions that we now see today. So as I look at the situation around me, today's challenges do look a bit different. Security's good. I'll say that again. Security is good. And you have had that under control for a number of years, and that's incredibly complimentary. But I do acknowledge that there are continued challenges, many of which you have heard. So today we're helping to ensure Iraq has a strong economy and a vibrant private sector with jobs for the next generation. And we're helping Iraq deal with the climate crisis and water scarcity. We recognize these challenges. Our partnership with Iraq has evolved beyond security. We describe it as a 360-degree relationship that covers economic issues, climate, and energy. But it's all based on the fact that security is good. Much of our work with the Iraqi government and the Kurdish region today is to help deliver results for the Iraqi people, and especially to the next generation. I think that's the big challenge here. And as I said at the top, we're committed to helping Iraq with all of these issues, and we are optimistic about what that future holds. This approach is not arbitrary. And I'll briefly mention 2 documents that I think guide our approach, because there's just a great deal of misunderstanding about what those are and how our approach is anchored. The first is the Strategic Framework Agreement. So I went and pulled a copy of it because it's a real simple 8-page document, and it's been referenced multiple times by folks in this room. I don't think the majority of people in this room have read that document. And so if I could give you homework in an academic institution, it would be go get the document, download it. In fact, the Council General even and the Charge d'Affaires have put it on their website, so you can actually go to their website and download it. 8-page document. What does it say? Well, first of all, it was finalized in 2008 by a group of very skilled diplomats, and it was signed and agreed to by the United States and the government of Iraq. This document talks about our relationship, and it's based on our shared interest in Iraq's sovereignty, your territorial integrity, security, and stability. And it's a commitment to shared goals from everything including economic, diplomatic, cultural, and security ties. In fact, in that 8-page document, there's only one small paragraph on security. I say that again, only one small paragraph on security. And I think that's worth mentioning. In the Strategic Framework document or agreement, we committed to defense and law enforcement cooperation and diplomatic and cultural cooperation and cooperation in energy, health, environment, and technology. All the things we've been talking about today. It is that 360-degree relationship that we aspire to, and it is comprehensive. It was really meant when it was drafted to be a step-by-step approach towards this long-term vision for Iraq, and not only Iraq, but also for the region. And the goal was that we and Iraq's leaders hope for a stable and secure relationship, but also a stable and secure Iraq and the Middle East, prosperous enough to serve the Iraqi people. In the Biden administration, we're focused on implementing the SFA and deepening the strategic relationship across the full range of bilateral issues. Now, how did we see this play out? Well, just a couple of weeks ago, Secretary of State Blinken spent the better part of a week hosting the High Coordinating Council. And the High Coordinating Council met in Washington, D.C. in this particular time, and its focus is on economic cooperation, energy sector development, and climate change. Your representative who led your delegation was the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, Dr. Fawad Hussein. He led your delegation. And that says quite a bit. The economic-focused HEC is merely a sign of our maturing relationship and the partnership under the SFA. So let me describe for you just a couple of very quick takeaways that came from that week worth of meetings. The two sides discussed the challenges facing Iraq's economy, from building technical capacity in the financial sector to protecting the system from financial crime, read corruption. I won't go into any more detail right now. Charge d'Affaires David Berg will talk more about that during his panel tomorrow. A second focus of the High Coordinating Council were the many discussions about Iraq's ambitious energy agenda as a way to maximize the country's economic potential, as well as to provide better services to the Iraqi people, because isn't that what this is all about? As we told our visitors last month in Washington, Iraq is truly facing historic opportunity in a watershed moment. Investing in the infrastructure and modernizing the energy sector has the potential not only to provide more reliable electricity, but also to meet the country's immediate needs. And transforming the energy sector is also a means to re-energize the economy, as you've heard multiple speakers talk about today. It leads to more private sector jobs, and it also helps deal with this growing population's ability to find not only jobs, but self-satisfaction. We came out of the High Coordinating Council committee meetings with both sides resolved to accelerate efforts, with the goal to modernize Iraq's electricity grid and energy distribution system. So we stand ready to help Iraq follow through on the commitment, whether it's with experts to capture flared gas or by continuing to support regional electricity interconnectivity projects. The things have been discussed with Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and the GCC. And finally, the HCC focused on climate, including Iraq's water crisis, as you've also heard. As you know, Iraq has consistently been described as one of the world's most fragile states suffering from climate change. So I won't really talk any further about that because all of the issues really have been captured. But we recognize the concerns and the consequences of not doing so. But we also recognize that we're in a transition period and the opportunity needs to be seized. So one final comment before we go into Q&A. You may have heard talk about what is effectively being described as the Biden Doctrine for the Middle East. And there are 5 principles that undergird or undergrin that whole effort. And these principles really apply in spades to Iraq, where we are building strong partnerships and boosting deterrence using diplomacy to de-escalate tensions and set a long-term foundation for security. President Biden's Middle East policy, or MENA policy as we describe it, it's clear in our minds, it's principled, it's realistic, it's pragmatic, and yet it's ambitious, and it's about whether it's the U.S. engagement or what partners can achieve together. The policy was articulated in President Biden's speech at the GCC +3 meeting in Jeddah on the 16th of July. And it was later incorporated into our national security strategy. So again, you can go look at it. It's on 2 pages under the Middle East region. It's based on America's unparalleled comparative advantage in building partnerships to strengthen deterrence using diplomacy, where possible to de-escalate tensions, to reduce risks of new conflicts, and really to set a new foundation for stability with a sustainable and present U.S. force posture. Yes, it's about us, but it's also about countries in the region. The framework has 5 declared principles, which are effectively that Biden doctrine that I talked about, and it engages our engagement in the Middle East. Let me run you through the 5 principles, and then I'll get off my soapbox here. Here's the first principle: partnerships. Partnerships. And specifically, we state that the U.S. will support and strengthen partnerships with countries that subscribe to a rules-based international order, and we will make sure that these countries can defend themselves against foreign threats. Here's the second principle: it's deterrence. The U.S. will not allow foreign or regional powers to jeopardize freedom of navigation through the Middle East waterways, including the Straits of Hormuz or the Bab el-Mandeb, nor tolerate efforts by countries to dominate one another across the region through military buildups, incursions, or threats. The third principle, as you might imagine, is diplomacy. The U.S. will not just aim to deter threats to regional stability, but we will work to reduce tensions, de-escalate, and end conflicts whenever possible through diplomacy. The fourth principle is integration, and you'll hear us talk a lot about that because it ties a lot of the discussion topics together today. The U.S. will build political, economic, and security connections between U.S. partners wherever possible while respecting each country's sovereignty and independent choices. And then lastly, the fifth principle, but not the least important, is values. And the U.S. will always promote human rights and values enshrined in the UN Charter. So there you have it, 5 principles: partnership, deterrence, diplomacy, integration, and values. That's what we believe, that's how we've articulated our strategy, and we think it will continue to help deliver results. It's easy to think of these examples when you think about the challenges facing Iraq, the Kurdish region, and also the region in general. I'll save some more of your thoughts for the questions and answer period, but in conclusion, I'd say this. I've watched Iraq change over the past 20 years. I've watched you deal with transition, and I've watched leaders in the room, past and now, present and future, hope to try to meet the needs of the Iraqi people as it addresses yours and their future challenges. Your past journey and my own professional one is really one interwoven in complicated ways. I'm hopeful that as you tackle Iraq's current and future challenges, we will remain partners and friends as we work together to help the Iraqi people. And with that, I look forward to taking your questions.